For a vast number of people across the world, their morning routine begins with a cup of coffee from the world's most popular coffee chain, Starbucks. But did you know that Starbucks CEO lived in poverty, barely making ends meet? When times were difficult, he even had to sell his own blood a few times. Now grab yourself a cup of coffee and let's go back to the beginning. This is Howard Schultz's inspiring story of how he transitioned from poverty and struggled to make ends meet to become the chief executive officer of a billion-dollar company, Starbucks. He was only a child who never gave up dreaming. Here's why you shouldn't give up on your dreams too. Howard D. Schultz was born on July 19, 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. His parents were Ashkenazi Jewish named Fred and Elaine Schultz. He was raised in a small one-bedroom apartment because his family was very poor. His father was an army vet and a truck driver, spending most of his life working low-paying jobs. Howard was only 7 years old at the time when his father injured his leg when he slipped on the ice. He unfortunately lost his job and had no access to medical care. His family was struggling because he had no savings or insurance. The vivid mental picture of his dad lying and feeling helpless on a couch was very traumatic for him and imprinted it in his mind. It was one of Howard's most significant turning points. To flee the harsh reality, he took refuge in activities like baseball, football, as well as the boys' club. In addition to that, he used to sit on the staircase wishing for a better life. He played football in high school and went on to receive a scholarship for sports. But he didn't want to play sports in college, so he selected communications as his major. He had to take out student loans to pay for his education and work a lot of odd jobs to make ends meet. Occasionally, he was even forced to sell his own blood after graduating from college in order to survive financially. After earning his degree, Schultz remained in Michigan and spent a year working at a ski lodge. He then accepted a position in New York City as a salesman for Xerox, and in 1979, Swedish kitchenware manufacturer PAI Partners hired him to be general manager of its American subsidiary, Hammerplast. While at Hammerplast, Schultz was in charge of the coffee machine manufacturer's American operations, and in 1981, he traveled to Seattle, Washington to fill Starbucks Coffee Company's plastic cone filter orders. At that time, Starbucks had 3 owners, Jerry Baldwin, Sev Siegel, and Gordon Boker. They only sold coffee beans back then. At the age of 29, after persuading them for an entire year, the owners hired him. While on a business trip to Italy, he at last obtained a position at Starbucks. One day, he entered a Universal Houseware show in Milan. While walking around the city, he came across an Italian coffee house and was extremely fascinated by his observation. He was astounded that the owners of the coffee shops actually knew their customers and addressed them by their names when they served their beverages. He returned to the US with excitement, attempting to persuade the owners of Starbucks to embrace these revolutionary new concepts, but the owners rejected the idea. Because of that, Howard quit Starbucks and went on to create his own coffee company called Il Giornale. However, he lacked the funds to support it. He spoke to 242 people during the year he spent attempting to raise money, and a total of 217 of them said no. Try to fathom how demoralizing that can be, to repeatedly hear why your vision is flawed and not worth your money. It was quite demeaning. But ultimately, a few individuals came to trust in and agreed to invest in his company as a result of his vision. Before we move further, here's a fun trivia for you. The mermaid on your Starbucks coffee is actually a two-tailed siren with its tail spread wide open. It might look peculiar, but the design is completely intentional. In 1971, the founders were inspired by Moby Dick and chose the name Starbucks. Seattle is a port city and coffee arriving aboard, and wanted their brand to be related to the sea. Their next task was to locate a logo, while the company's website claims they were reading vintage marine manuals and enigmatic maritime figures. Then they found a 16th century manuscript with a photo of a twin-tailed mermaid recognized as a siren. It went well in the start, but then the bare-breasted siren was a little too risk when it was scaled up in size. By altering the artwork to make her more appropriate, Starbucks was able to put the logo on their trucks without any backlash. Howard said that early siren, bare-breasted and rubinous, was supposed to be as seductive as the coffee itself. Now back to our story. Starbucks went bankrupt and Howard then acquired the business, becoming CEO. He rebranded the businesses and spread them throughout the United States. Today, Starbucks now has 15,467 stores in America and 34,317 globally. It now has a net worth of a whopping $97.23 billion. And the massive company serves more than 8 million cups of coffee per day to happy customers. Howard has some advice for people. You can hold many people accountable in life, and wallowing in self-pity is an option. But you should warn them that they must take responsibility. Life is a series of close calls that lack a lot of what we would consider luck in any way. Take advantage and accept the day taking charge of your future. The book Pour Your Heart Into It: How Starbucks Built a Company One Cup at a Time was written by Howard Schultz and Dory Jones Yang in 1997. His second book, co-written with Joanne Gordon, entitled Onward: How Starbucks Fought for Its Life Without Losing Its Soul, was released in 2011. Howard also earned 2011 Business Person of the Year in Fortune magazine for his contributions to the economy and job development. In one of his inspiring messages, Howard said, "I am convinced that most people can achieve their dreams and beyond if they have the determination to keep trying." There are moments in our lives when we summon the courage to make choices that go against reason, that go against common sense, and the wise counsel of people we trust. But we lean forward, nonetheless, because despite all risk and rational arguments, we believe that the path we are choosing is the right and best thing to do.